when you say that she beat him with a belt, were you actually there for
Yes,
that?
I was, and I tried to stop it.
Despite all of this, did you still love Kathy?
Yes, very much.
It sounds like you're really quick to try to throw dirt on your dead daughter. Would you agree with that?
No, not at all.
The one and only defense witness took the stand in the murder trial for Collin Griffith, and that is his own grandmother. So how much of an impact did she make on the jury? Plus, lawyers for It Ends With Us stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni are getting a reality check in the courtroom as the judge is threatening to move their trial sooner if they don't stop with the fiery public statements. Also this hour, we're spotlighting the death of Philadelphia teacher Ellen Greenberg. The medical examiner now is reversing his ruling on the cause of death to be something other than suicide. And could defendant Monica Sementilli's gym friends tip the scales of justice in her murder trial? It's all coming up next for you, plus much more right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We have a jam-packed show planned for you, so let's get right to it. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. I bet her arms are tired. I bet Grandma Susan's arms are tired after throwing all that dirt on her deceased daughter. At only 39 years old, Kathy Griffith had her life tragically cut short. She was a mother and she was a school teacher. And nobody is saying that she was perfect. None of us are, right? She certainly had her struggles. But the way in which her own mother threw her unsympathetically, disparaging her to that jury was appalling. How she threw her under the bus was nothing short of appalling. What kind of mother does that to their child? I mean, think about this, my friends. This mother couldn't even concede the compliment about her daughter, about being a great teacher. No, she was too focused painting her daughter out to be a violent, mentally unstable, drug-using liar. It made me sick. And what's more, she defended that violent psychopath grandson of hers, trying to say that he was the victim. I tell you what, I think Grandma needs reminded that witnesses saw her grandson dragging her daughter by her hair before the forensic evidence shows that he plunged the knife so hard into her neck that it went out the other side. There's no doubt about it, Kathy Griffith is a victim. Yes, she struggled with her own personal issues, don't we all? But what did Grandma Susan do when her daughter was struggling to help her during those difficult times? That's what I'd like to know. Did you see Grandma Susan take any responsibility or show any remorse or any bit of sorrow? No, she didn't shed a tear. She was too busy reading off her talking points on how she could make her daughter look bad and her grandson look good. Grandma Susan, if your precious Collin walks on this murder charge, I sure hope he goes to live with you. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Not only was the defendant having an affair with Baker, but they were also swinging with other people. Her older daughter, Jessica, who you'll hear from, found Baker sleeping in the defendant's bed.
In California, we've got the state's case resuming in the celebrity hairstylist murder trial for Monica Sementilli. Court's going to start up in that one at noon. What a case that is. And in Massachusetts, we've got testimony continuing for the socialite manslaughter trial for Ms. Penny McGee. That's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And we have a brand new trial to Court TV beginning today. Opening statements start up in the dog park murder trial for Gerald Radford. This guy is accused of a hate crime, accused of killing John Walt Lay at a Tampa dog park. And Radford, though, in this case, is claiming self-defense. So this is a really interesting one. Again, starting up this morning. Now, let's get to our top story. Closing arguments begin this morning in the case I was just talking about, the deadly son murder trial for Collin Griffith. The defense called their first and only witness on Monday, Grandma Susan. Let's take a look to some of what she said on direct and on cross.
Have you ever personally witnessed Kathy engage in a physical act of violence towards Collin?
I know that there was a fight at the house in Port Charlotte, and the fight started because she was beating him with a belt.
Despite all of this, did you still love Kathy?
Yes, very much.
It sounds like you're really quick to try to throw dirt on your dead daughter. Would you agree with that?
No, not at all. My dead daughter did the best that she could. We have a problem in this country with addressing mental health. We all know that.
Notice how she says, my dead daughter. You know, couldn't she have just said, my daughter, my beautiful daughter, my precious daughter? Tell you what, I'm wondering if the jury liked her. There's a lot to unpack with this case, so let's do it. We have three great guests in our power panel this morning. Let's welcome them in. National parenting and family relationship expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth is here. Also, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Randolph Rice. And want to welcome onto the program a brand new guest, but we've seen him in action. Loved his advocacy work in the treadmill abuse murder trial. So happy to have criminal defense attorney Mario Gallucci joining us as a legal analyst this morning. Good morning to you all. Randolph, let me start with you, please. What the defense did with Grandma Susan had all our courties in an uproar yesterday. I didn't see one positive comment about Grandma. And I have to say, I think the attorneys bear some responsibility here. I'm curious what you think about how the defense did that presentation with her and if it could have been better.
Well, I think Grandma and Kathy might be right about one thing, is that there's serious mental health issues in America, and she may be suffering from them because she's on the stand not defending or standing up for her daughter. And this, unfortunately, is this is where justice and love meet in the courtroom, that her love for her grandson, knowing that he's the only surviving one of this line, forces her to sit there and really, like you said in your opening statement, just to besmirch her daughter for the sake of trying to save last-ditch Hail Mary her grandson. So the defense, you know, look, they're trying everything they can here because they really don't have a lot, but I don't know that this was the right move for them.
Right, I'm with you, Randolph. It could have been better. And think about this, if Collin walks, who's he gonna go live with? Perhaps Grandma Susan here. Is he a psychopath? What will he do next if he's not locked up? Dr. Sue, this is where we wanna bring you in. Your thoughts, please.
I mean, that's a loaded question. There's so many factors here in terms of if he is a psychopath or he's not. Psychopaths have a combination of three things: genetics, trauma, and brain damage. Okay, those are the three things that we're looking for when we're trying to diagnose this. And it seems that trauma is definitely one thing that has happened here. We don't know if he has brain damage, but there does seem to be a genetic link here coming from the grandmother. And I'm not sure if you really needed me on here today, Julie, because your opening statement nailed it psychologically. Look, for the courties out here, let me explain this. Grandmom is a victim of the daughter. That's how it came off, that she is a victim here. So she sees Collin as a victim also. So she has to save him, just like she saved herself, from not intervening and probably not giving Kathy the kind of care that she needed. So this is her last ditch cause to save her grandson, because she didn't step in and save her daughter.
Dr. Sue, thank you for all that. That's helpful insight. I hear what you're saying, that she's identifying with Collin. She's feeling
Correct.
something for Collin. And we've seen Collin in those videos, in the body camera footage. He is cool as a cucumber when he speaks to police every time. And many courties were wanting to see him speak in this trial. He opted not to. Mario Gallucci, I want to bring you in on this question. Do you think this was the best move for him not to testify?
So it's a very difficult question whether to let your client testify. I see that the judge is letting in evidence from the prior murder of his father, which is beyond belief. But if you're going to let him testify, it's opening him up to questions about what he had done about a year earlier by killing his father. So if he testifies and he has to admit to killing his father, although they're claiming it was self-defense, I know it was investigated, they said it was in self-defense. When that comes out, it's going to be very difficult for a juror to say, wait a minute here, you killed your father a year ago and now your mother is dead. So, you know, it's truly a psychopathic pattern.
Appreciate it. Great points, Mario. There's a pattern here for sure. I have to wonder if that first case is going to be reopened. Mario, curious if you're Collin's lawyer, would you be concerned about what he may say on the stand if he were to choose to testify because of the idea that this case could be looked at again?
He would have to be very well prepped. And as you saw yesterday with the grandmother, I don't believe she was very well prepped. The defense attorney kept having to rein her in and rein her in and rein her in. Grandma had her own agenda, and it seemed like the defense attorney wasn't able to stop her from her own agenda. You know, that as a defense attorney, you want to put a witness on to get certain facts out. In this case, the defense attorney wanted to get out the facts that, you know, there was this daughter had an issue and that the issue might have led to her death. But grandma just kept going on and on and on. And it was crazy. Dead daughter, you had just pointed out, Julie, that she called her a dead daughter. Couldn't even mention her name or say daughter. So that was very telling, very telling.
It really was. Sharp points there, Mario. Thank you for that. Dr. Sue, something we've been talking about in our newsroom, we've been wanting to ask you is, based on the pattern here, this child, teenager, whatever we want to call him, a little monster, kills both his father and his mother. He is 17 years old right now. If he would be back in society, is it possible that he could become a serial killer?
I mean, anything is possible, right? He has a pattern here of taking the lives of people that are close to him. And it appears that he has a lack of empathy, a lack of remorse. And people like this have a tendency to manipulate others and be extremely impulsive. What scares me the most here is that he took 2 lives of his mother and his father. I believe that there is extreme abuse that has gone on here behind the scenes that we're not privy to. And that is always, always a factor that leads to someone becoming a serial killer. So it's a 50-50 chance here, Julie. And the problem here is that this young man needs help. And I hope that he gets some, even if he is behind bars. If he's out in the public, I think it's also the judge should put something that says he needs to be institutionalized or in a program for a very long time so that he can get some help that he needs for this trauma that he's gone through so he doesn't take it out violently on other people.
Amen, my friend. Great points. Randolph Rice, I want to end the segment with you. You were a prosecutor, hearkening back to your time serving as a prosecutor. Would you feel more pressure with this case, perhaps, than some others, given what we just heard Dr. Sue saying about the potential, if this kid isn't incarcerated and if he isn't given help, that he could be a real danger to society?
Yeah, you know, every case you take as a prosecutor, you want to make sure you do the best you can. You want to make sure you're there for the victims. And the state, you know, that's obviously who you're working for, to protect the victims, or to at least have a voice for the victims, and then ultimately to protect the state that you work for. So doing the job, making sure that somebody that could cause harm in the future is off the streets, that's obviously the #1 job that you're focusing on. And I think they're doing a great job. I think they're going to focus on, in closing, obviously the facts, right? Not the emotions of what the grandmother said, but what actually happened and the forensics of what happened that day in that house.
Yes, so well said. Randolph, thank you for that great insight from you all. We'll leave it there till we go into the courtroom in just a short time. Dr. Sue, I know we've got to say goodbye. Thank you for your expertise this morning. Randolph and Mario are coming with us. We want you to do the same at home. Go refill that coffee. Here's what we have coming up next on Opening Statements.
I got a text message from Monica saying, please come over, I need you. Monica was hysterical, and I just was like a human teddy bear person.
Could Monica's gym friends tip the scales of justice? Plus, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's lawyers in court together for the first time, and the judge is not happy with them, threatening to move up the trial. We'll explain.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Sementilli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Sementilli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial, today, only on Court TV.
The ongoing feud between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni is what's trending in true crime. Attorneys for the It Ends With Us co-stars met in federal court for the first time on Monday. The judge advising both sides to avoid making public statements that could prejudice the proceedings. If not, the judge voiced his ability to move up the trial that's currently scheduled for March of 2026. So at the hearing Monday, Lively's attorneys referenced the website launched by Baldoni's team a few days earlier that contains documents pertaining to the legal battle, including a section titled Timeline of Relevant Events with text messages between Lively and Baldoni. So the question we're asking this morning, has the trial already commenced in the court of public opinion? I'm so happy to have our next guest on the show. Check out his podcast, No Filter with Zach Peter. Zach, good morning to you. What do you think? Has the trial already begun?
Listen, the court of public opinion is weighing in, and people have some very hot takes. I feel like more people are leaning more towards Baldoni with the more evidence we're starting to see come out. But when the judge said that he wanted to expedite the trial and make it earlier, everybody online was like, please, we're following this and we don't want to wait another year.
Yes. You know, and Zach, you touched on something I wanted to ask you about. Those folks who are following this intensely, and you know, it is intense. There's so much back and forth. It seems like every day there's a new headline, a new document, a new text message, something, new video that comes up. You said you think the court of public opinion is leaning more toward Justin Baldoni. Why do you sense that is?
I just think he's shown us more of text messages and emails, and we've gotten his side of things where we've heard some of her claims, but then we see based off of his side, there's a bit more context, or we're seeing that, you know, the text messages that were initially released in the New York Times were lacking context, or were lacking other messages that we didn't see. So I think just with the amount of information he's giving us, it seems like he has a stronger case.
Okay, this is helpful. So when you look at everything, and you've been pouring through the documents, reading them all, anything you can get your hands on, is there anything that really stands out to you above all else with this case that you think might take front and center when this trial does eventually roll around next March?
Well, I know that there have been some internet sleuth theories that maybe, you know, there was a bit more that went on between Baldoni and Blake. I mean, we've seen it often. Co-stars in the lead of a romantic film, they tend to develop feelings. And I think based off of the tone of some of the text messages, we wouldn't be surprised if maybe some feelings were developed. And maybe that's kind of why Ryan Reynolds has kind of inserted himself a lot more when it came to, you know, the promotional strategy and the marketing of the film. So much so to we're seeing these skits that people are believing are about Justin Baldoni with the jabs that he seemingly took at him in the Deadpool with his Nice Pull character. So I think that, I mean, it may just be a fun internet theory, but I think we want to believe that maybe there was a bit something more that was going on between Blake and Baldoni, because the chemistry was certainly there.
Yes, it was. We'll leave it there for now. I know we'll continue talking with you about this case, Zach, but we have another one we want to turn to now. The accuser, the alleged victim in the felony assault trial for hip-hop star A$AP Rocky was back on the stand on Monday, with most of the attention, of course, in this case, on Rocky, on his famous partner, Rihanna, the mother of his two kids. And there were plenty of fiery courtroom moments as well between the alleged victim, A$AP Rocky, real name is Terrell Efron, and defense attorney from New York, Joe Tacopina. Take a look.
Are you with me so far?
Yo, you're annoying, bro. Just come on.
Are you with me?
We didn't even get to the case. Right. What are we doing here?
Are you keeping up? Stop. Are you keeping up with the question?
I can't keep up with him. I can't take him serious.
No.
The heated exchange didn't stop there. Oh no. Tacopina continued questioning Relly on cross. It led to this outburst during the testimony. Take a look.
You're not going to keep tripping me up. I'm on
Mr. Efron, stop. Just stop talking.
We have a letter from the DA, and the letter says that Mr. Efron informed them that he went on his Instagram.
Yes, my Instagram.
All right. Your Instagram, as in Relly Boss?
You're trying to show me somebody else's that I can't activate where I can go to my archive. You're not slick.
He doesn't need to go on someone else's phone.
Okay, and so, Zach, as you know, having followed this, there's so many things people are talking about surrounding this trial, right? We know the lawyers have been getting into it. Joe Tacopina and John Lewin, the deputy DA, famous for putting away Robert Durst. They've been going at it. The judge said, you two don't even talk to each other unless it's about trial business. We know we've got Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu representing Relly, people talking about that. And last time you were on the show, we were talking about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because Erica Jane's son, Sergeant Tommy Zizzo, was witness number one and found no evidence of a shooting when he responded. So we're asking, Zach, do we think ASAP Relly might have just become the least interesting part of this trial?
I mean, I feel like every day there's something new that's coming out, whether it's Rihanna serving a fashion look in court. I'm like, what in the Anna Delvey is going on here? And then we have these outbursts. I mean, it's kind of like, I love reality TV, as you know, and this trial has been like an ongoing reality show with outbursts and fashion looks. I'm like, is this the Real Housewives? Are we in court in downtown LA?
I know. It is more like a drama. I mean, this witness, you've seen him, Zach. He's so combative. I mean, he just likes to fight. Joe Tacopina is so good. I mean, he's a really aggressive defense attorney, as we know. He is here for it. He's like, I got all day. Let's go. So it's just, you're right. It's like a soap opera or something, and we're here for it. It's fantastic. So we'll see what happens today. Thank goodness he's off the stand after 5 days. So we'll see what comes. Zach, I want to let you.
More.
Yeah, with that.
I said, I want more. Keep him on the stand for another few days.
I know. Call him back.
Poke some more buttons.
Yes. Call him back. I want to let you weigh in on another story, Zach, while we have you this morning. So as you know, another big trending case is Diddy's case. We've been talking about it weekly. Well, now he's been taken to the hospital. That's right. Now, according to multiple reports, we know he's being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. That's a federal facility. It is rough. And he was taken to the hospital so he could get an MRI on his knee. The hip-hop mogul didn't spend the night at the hospital after the MRI. Apparently, he went right back to the lovely facility. He's been there since last September, if you can believe it, as he's awaiting charges for his federal sex trafficking case. That trial set to start in May. Zach, what do you think about Diddy's hospital trip?
Listen, everybody is on high alert watching Diddy. Nobody wants a jailbreak. Nobody wants, any accidents to go down in prison. But I mean, initially I'm like, what's going on? Like, everybody is hyper alert because nobody wants like a repeat of Epstein, or, I know that there's a lot of internet speculation about Diddy as well, and about, whether or not when we're going to see this trial come forth. But I want it to, again, all of these trials, like the delay in the court dates is just, I'm ready for the trials to start playing out now, because I know that there's a lot of celebs that are going to be coming to the forefront in these Diddy trials, and I think everybody's ready to just dive in at this point.
I think you're exactly right, my friend. We're going to be there for it all in that courtroom and dissecting every bit of it. I just feel like there's still more that's going to drop before the trial. I just kind of have a feeling. I know we've got that superseding indictment just out, but I don't know, just a hunch maybe. Zach Peter, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on Opening Statements again. We'll see you soon, and be sure to check out Zach's podcast, No Filter with Zach Peter. Still to come here on Opening Statements, we're spotlighting the mysterious death of Philadelphia teacher Ellen Greenberg. Have you heard about this case? If not, you should. The medical examiner is now reversing his ruling on her cause of death. And we've got closing arguments set to begin in the deadly son murder trial for Collin Griffith. Be right back. Now for what's tipping the scales of justice in the celebrity stylist murder trial. It resumes later today when the defendant's gym friend returns to the stand. Elise Blulu played racquetball with Monica Sementilli and testified that she and Monica used to hang out before Fabio, her famous hairstylist husband, was murdered. Now, Blue testified Monday that Sementilli reached out to her after Fabio's murder, saying that she needed her, but didn't hear much from her after that, except for some occasional text messages.
Did she ever talk to you about who could have killed Fabio?
No.
Never brought that up?
No.
What was she talking to you about?
Was, like, why she wasn't getting the insurance, why it was taking so long. She didn't understand why she couldn't have her phone back. She was really worried about money.
We also heard from Monica's personal trainer, who testified that she would flirt with him. So let's talk about how these witnesses may tip the scales of justice for the prosecution in this California case. Let's bring in attorneys Randolph Rice and Mario Gallucci to talk about it. Okay, so Mario, let me go to you here, please. In terms of telling the story, painting the picture of Monica having a pants on fire situation going on, hiding her secret life from her husband, how do you think the state is doing?
I think they're doing a very good job of showing that she's greedy, and she wanted money from her husband. She wanted to move on with this relationship, which was very obvious from the evidence I've seen. And in order to move on with this relationship, she needed that insurance policy. So it was, you know, kill her husband and move on with her new life. And I think they're doing a very good job of showing that.
Yes, yes, painting that picture. She was greedy. You're right, Mario. That's the biggest thing when you say greedy and lustful. These pictures so racy. Some of them they couldn't even show to the jury. They're just having the detectives describe them. You can imagine how we're handling this at court TV. There's not much of anything we can show. Some of them are just so bad. Tell me, Randolph, when we think about this woman she's trying to draw the line but she didn't commit a murder. She might have been greedy, might have been a cheater, but no murder for her. Do you think the defense team for her can effectively make that boundary for this jury?
Well, if they're going to try and use this idea that she was in it for this insurance policy, which I know $1.6 million seems like a lot of money, but you know, this situation, what the defense needs to say is, why would she rip the ATM out of the wall if she had the ATM there that she could get every day? And that's what they're going to have to say, that she is living this wonderful life. Why would she jeopardize that? And I think they asked a lot of those questions of the personal trainer about her care for Fabio, that she was going to the gym with him and she wanted to see him healthy. And the defense is trying to establish that she was a loving wife, that she had no reason to kill her husband, that she had a wonderful life with him, and that this was just not in the cards for her motive.
Right, Randolph, thank you for that. Yes, the defense is trying to say that, you know, her lover, Mr. Baker, and his buddy, the assassin, got together and just did this on their own volition, and that she had nothing to do with it. Her hands are clean to a degree. Let's look at a couple more clips here. We have one of her racquetball friend, Elise, and we've got one of her trainer talking about how Monica suspected Fabio to be cheating.
I think she said she was unhappy and that she thought he was cheating on her.
As far as the marriage, did you give her any advice on her marriage when she told you that she was in an unhappy marriage?
I asked her, when she told me she was unhappy, I said, why don't you just get a divorce?
And what did she say to you?
Why throw away 20 years?
But it's not really throwing it away, is it? If it's peaceful and everybody lives. Mario Gallucci, what do you say to that?
I say that there's a lot going on behind the curtain here, you know, a lot of people see that you have a great relationship and she's doing very well, but obviously when Baker came into her life, that all changed. And I think that the prosecution is trying to show that things changed immediately for her when she met this man, and that she was about to move on and didn't care about that life.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Randolph, everybody's wondering if Monica is going to take the stand. What do you think about that?
Oh, man, that is risky, because if she gets on that stand, remember, the prosecution gets to cross-examine her, and they get to ask her about all these inconsistencies, all these text messages, all these phone calls. Things like, how did these guys know? Did you ever talk about the security camera footage or the system in the garage? Did you ever, you know, why were you at the LA Fitness earlier that day, as the personal trainer testified to before the murder? I mean, all these things get to be asked of her, and, you know, prosecutors are pretty good at tripping people up and catch them in lies. So I would be very risky to put her on the stand.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, another risk I'm wondering about for the prosecution would be if they do call, I don't even know what we call him, lover, boyfriend, are they still involved? I have no idea. Robert, she could vaguely remember his last name, Baker, who did a no contest plea, and the defense thinks that he's going to come in and side with them and say her hands are clean. If I'm on the side of the prosecution, I'd be a little nervous that this guy might be a wild card. Mario Gallucci, I'm curious your take on Mr. Baker and how you think that's going to go.
So he's already pled guilty, and it doesn't look like there was any sort of agreement with the prosecution in it. So he could come in on either side. So it's up to whoever knows what he's going to say before he says it. I mean, if the defense thinks he's going to come in there and say, look, I did this. She had absolutely nothing to do with it. I knew she had an insurance policy, and I was looking forward to getting that insurance policy and then moving on with her or even without her. So, you know, he's a wild card, just like you just said, Julie. He is a wild card, not knowing, you know, which side he's going to stand on.
Yeah, exactly. He better hope he gets someone that doesn't know how to cross, because boy, oh boy, they're gonna grow him like a steak if he deviates from the truth. Speaking of people great at cross, Mario Gallucci, you are one of them. You were sensational, might I just say, before we have to say goodbye to you, sensational in the treadmill abuse murder trial. Your advocacy, top notch. Love having you on the program. I hope you will come back. That moment about the fish, throwing the fish, like you had me laughing and just, I mean, on the edge of my seat. It was so good. I thought it was one of the best moments of the year in trials we've seen. So just wanted to commend you and tip my hat to you. And
thank you.
Say I hope to have you back very soon. And guess what? Randolph is joining us in Court TV Live this morning, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you both for the great analysis this morning here on Opening Statements. Still to come, we're going to talk about the 2011 death of Philadelphia teacher Ellen Greenberg. If you haven't heard about this case, you need to. We've got a big reversal from the medical examiner and a big fight with her family. We're going to break it down with our expert guest next. And we've got closing arguments set to begin any minute now in the deadly son murder trial for Collin Griffith. A live look at the courtroom. There's the judge. Believe he's instructing the jury ahead of the arguments. We'll go there live together with Court TV Live.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Sementilli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Sementilli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder.
It's a whodunit Hollywood story, but will there be a twist that no one sees?
The celebrity stylist murder trial, today, only on Court TV.
This morning, we're spotlighting the mysterious death of Ellen Greenberg. On Monday, the city of Philadelphia settled 2 lawsuits with her parents following a 14-year fight for justice. The 27-year-old teacher was found dead by her fiancé. She had more than 20 stab wounds on her body. She was found in her Philadelphia apartment. This is in the year 2011. The case was initially ruled a homicide until it was changed just a few months later and ruled a suicide. But now, wait, not so fast. More than a decade later, we've got a jaw-dropping admission by the medical examiner that the manner of death in the case of Ellen Greenberg should be amended to other than suicide. Her parents have long maintained that the ME was wrong, and they spoke to PennLive.com.
They said something about suicide, which I never considered for 1 second. Never, ever, ever would she do that.
It's like somebody punches you hard in the stomach, and again, and the air goes out of your lungs, and you can't breathe.
Ah, these poor parents. Now the city of Philadelphia has agreed to reopen the evidence with the current medical examiner. So let's talk more about this case. If you haven't heard about it, you need to hear about it. I want to bring in someone who's been following this case for a long, long time before it started grabbing national headlines just the last couple days. Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindeffer. Jen, good morning to you. So would you walk us through the story, please? It's my understanding Ellen Greenberg was engaged and that it was her fiance who finds her and tells 911 that she stabbed herself.
Yes, it's a very interesting story, to say the least. Essentially, Ellen was found by her fiance. Her fiance had said he went to go work out, and when he returned, the door was locked. He says he forced the door open, but the evidence does not support that claim. He said he went in there and he called 911, claiming he couldn't really determine what had happened. I think he even mentioned that she might have slipped. They asked him to give CPR, and he said, well, I can't give CPR because there's a knife protruding from her chest. So the 911 call is one of the most absolutely unimaginable call that you'll ever hear that does not make sense with the crime scene.
No, it sure doesn't. It sure doesn't, Jen. And we've been talking about the case this morning. In Florida, we're watching Collin Griffith's case where he's saying that his mom fell on the knife and that it pierced through her neck. In this case, it's my understanding that fiance, Mr. Sam Goldberg, said the same thing to 911, that Ellen fell on the knife. And we know that she had 20 stab wounds and also bruises on her body that had been somewhat healed over too. Your thoughts on that, please, Jen?
Right, so to give some specifics, there were 20 stab wounds, approximately 10 in the back, including a gaping wound in her head. Now, these wounds were actually, according to the private investigator and another ME, were caused by 2 separate knives, Julie. So the thought that somebody would be in the throes of committing suicide and change knives out does not make a lot of sense. In addition, she was found actually stood up, sort of leaning up against a counter space, and it was obvious from the signs in her apartment that she was actually moved post-mortem, and there was a post-mortem wound that then other wounds in her chest area were made afterwards. So the whole case never really comported with any sort of suicide.
You're so right, Jen. This case stinks to high heaven. And I want to read a direct quote from the ME who is now changing his opinion, Dr. Marlon Osborne. Let's take a look at what he said. He said, since issuing the amended death certificate, I have become aware of additional information. He goes on to say, I am now aware that information exists which draws into question, for example, whether Ellen's fiance was witnessed entering the apartment before placing the 911 call on January 26th, 2011. Okay, well, that's one fact, but what about what you just mentioned, Jen? What about what you just mentioned, the stab wounds to the back, and someone is going to rule this suicide? I think this is stunning to me. Look at this. Here's the timeline here, how initially decided to be a homicide, then changed to suicide, then now, okay, the suicide determination's been removed. I'm just not sure how in the world an ME arrives at that second conclusion reached in April of 2011. Jen, does the family say what they think might have occurred here, or why this could have possibly been changed?
Yes, Julie, a couple more details also. Initially on that 911 call, he doesn't necessarily say she fell on a knife. He just says she fell. In other words, he makes no inference as to how she actually died. Recall in this case, the whole crime scene was completely scrubbed the day after. Law enforcement gave permission for a professional cleaning crew to go in. And the uncle of the fiance, who is a judge, he came in and took all of the devices, unfortunately. So unfortunately, so much evidence is now contaminated, but they truly believe that somebody entered and killed Ellen. And that is how she died. Nothing to do with any sort of suicide. There's really no evidence of any suicide.
Jen, thank you for that. And it seems that the family has just not been heard for all these years. And they've been pleading and begging. And now finally their cries are being heard. Yesterday was a pivotal day, wasn't it, Jen, when they went to court? Apparently they've got a couple civil lawsuits going, and now it seems that people are starting to pay attention, aren't they?
Well, yes. You know, honestly, when I got involved in this case and they first contacted me and sent me what they had, all the evidence they had, just looking at the autopsy and the photos and all the other evidence in terms of the door lock and the crime scene, it was unbelievable that this determination was made, and it was switched to a homicide or to a suicide based on the fact they said that she was by herself. Typically, a ME will look at all the surrounding factors, but just to take that one factor and change it made no sense. As far as the parents, when I first spoke to them years ago, they were broken. And now to see them break down in tears of joy that finally they're being understood and finally the truth is coming out.
Yes, it sure is. Jen, I'm curious if you see perhaps signs of domestic violence here. I asked that question because, as you know, there were bruises found on her body that were in various stages of healing, according to the pathology experts. And I'm just so curious if it seems to you that she might have been suffering, perhaps, in a relationship setting.
Yeah, absolutely. So according to the parents, from what they could see externally, everything was okay, right? And this often happens in domestic violence. You really don't know what's going on. It wasn't until post-mortem they discovered all these bruises, and the parents, I can tell you, are convinced that she was suffering from domestic violence.
Yes, I'm seeing here an outside pathologist who looked at the case said that various bruises on her body were consistent with a repeated beating. So now I'm wondering, Jen, do you think that somebody, a person or persons, is going to be charged here?
I think this one's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because, as I mentioned, they came in and completely wiped that crime scene with a professional crime scene cleaning crew, like a hazmat cleaning crew. So I think it makes it difficult. But there are initial photos that were taken that I think could be very helpful. And I think re-interviewing everybody, it's certainly a possibility.
Yes, well, your advocacy and your insight has been just tremendous on this one. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us and for analyzing it for us. And I want to tell all our friends at home, check out Jen Coffin-Defford's brand new show, Break the Case, on YouTube. It is outstanding. Jen, thank you for your time this morning. We'll see you soon. And that is it for opening statements, my friends. You can watch or share this episode if you like. Go to courttv.com to do it. Click on the shows tab.